Rogers trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, brother?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
Is happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Pod Street Bullies, a long-awaited episode of the Pod Street Bullies.
Welcome back.
One could say much anticipated.
Welcome
Yeah,
back.
to some much anticipated.
Some may say.
Mainly to us, just because this is my one night a week where I get to get away from the kid and the wife.
Everybody was
Regardless.
excited to come back except for
Hoagie.
Yeah.
He has an
That
event.
poor guy.
He has an event. He's taking a pottery class.
This is an event all in of itself. Like, how do you? I'm not even going to get into.
Could you
these.
imagine
Here's-
Hoagie in a pottery class? How's it going, Matthew? Fine.
I bet he's doing something like he's like, no, I'm in like a false spike ball league. Like something
flower vase.
real D-baggy.
Right. Pickleball. I don't get
That's it.
pickleball, but
We
that's
have
what
couples pickleball.
it is. Couples pickleball. Yep. Okay. That's what it is.
His wife's like,
Couples
"Come on, I
pickleball.
can't carry the team."
All right.
Classic.
Well, I'm Derek
I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
and Matt Casey,
Hey.
and we're here to talk Flyers hockey. It's been 3 weeks now, guys.
I feel it might even be longer.
Oh,
You got a bit of the
wow.
mad scientist hair going on there, Casey.
Dude, I rode on top. I take the ferry in and out of Manhattan. I rode the top of the ferry today and just like
Yeah, you did.
God, so, it is what it is, man. At least I got the hair. It's good.
Yep, that's all.
There
that
you
matters.
go, man. That's why I wear a hat all the time. But regardless, good amount of stuff to cover since it has been a few weeks since we haven't joined up with the pod here. So we're gonna start off with I'm not gonna say most recent because something else happened, I believe, today, but probably one of the more prominent things to happen over the past couple weeks. We had Morgan Frost. He signed finally signed a deal. We've got 2 years, $2.1 million per season for those 2 years. So, John, give me your initial thoughts on the contract there.
I mean, my initial thought was, why the hell did this take so long?
Right.
I mean, like, nothing about this was like, I don't know, earth shattering. I'm fine with it. I think that, like, if you really wanted to be nitpicky, you could say, is Morgan Frost really worth the $2.1 million a season? But I think if you're thinking about the Flyers situation right now, cap space really doesn't mean anything. Where it's like those little dollars and cents, it's not really important. He'll still have another year of RFA status, I believe, when this contract is done. So I'm happy with it. I think it's enough money for him to feel satisfied, but it's a small enough cap hit where it's like, okay, if he ends up not panning out, whatever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we discussed it at length, I feel like a couple times now, where we were comfortable with AAV wise, term wise. This, to my knowledge, at least, and from what I remember, kind of hits the nail on the head in regards to what we were talking about. Right around $2 million, 2 years. So I'm happy with it. What do you? What's your take on it, Casey?
Is there a no movement clause in this one?
Chuck's gone. Chuck's gone. No more of those.
It's like, how did he get away with this without a no movement clause? I echo all the sentiments you guys have. I think the price is fair. The term's fair. We keep on. It's like last year he got a 1 year tryout contract. This year he's getting a 2 year tryout contract.
2 years, he'll get a 3 year.
Right. And so I think it's earned. Like Frost or not, like he did perform. Now, can he perform when it really matters, when games actually mean something?
Mm-hmm.
I think the ball's in his court. So let's see how that works. What I'm more pumped about, though, is the fact that we're not going into preseason with like lingering BS
Right.
contract storylines.
Right.
Which the last one I kind of remember was Konechny, but there may have been one since then.
Yeah, and it was like
Mhm.
Provorov could have been in that situation too.
Right.
Like, remember that one
Right
took
before.
a little while.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a cloud that hovers over. Like this year, you're, knock on wood, you have people coming back from injury versus like, oh God, a random July surgery, which somebody needs, So
Right.
I feel more positive going into it. And I had, even before this, I was feeling positivity, but I think this is just another sort of, feather in the cap of the new management regime of like, let's just get this done. Let's get everybody focused on hockey.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I'm sorry, Derek. I just
No, you go
feel
ahead.
like the whole thing is when it was taking so long, I'm going, what leg does Frost really have to stand on here? Like, I get it. He had a good second half to the season.
It's his third leg.
No, meanwhile, Ryan Ellis is hobbling on going, you don't know what having one leg is like. I don't know how he turned Russian all of a sudden, but whatever.
I just felt like he couldn't really demand much more than this.
Right.
So I still don't know what the hang up was on
Mhm.
this. I know that'll never come out, but I'd be interested to see like what exactly like held this for as long as it did.
Mhm.
That'll come out eventually, I'm sure.
In his tell-all book 2 years
Yeah.
from now. Yeah.
That'll sell 700 copies worldwide.
Forward by Dan Carcillo.
I did want to get back to a point that Casey made or something he mentioned there in regards to Morgan Frost and games that matter. So you're right. I see exactly where you're coming from in regards to games that don't necessarily not matter. However, games of substance, maybe we'll call it, like
Mhm.
a team pushing for a playoff spot, things like that. I think with this contract, we might get a good glimpse at both worlds here, where this coming up season, obviously, no one's completely writing it off, but let's be honest, they're not
Right.
going to make much noise. That next year, though, we might get a decent glimpse at a team that could be a bubble playoff team, like a wild card team. So I think that second year, especially being a contract year for Morgan Frost, we could really see what he's made of in regards to motivation, in regards to
Right.
just the testing his mettle at that point. So I think it's a good contract term wise in that sense. I think AAV works out to $2.1 million. If it doesn't work out, see you later.
I think the bar has been set so low. We're basically like a battered spouse center right now from the Flyers. Like we have just been kicked around the place. And if the bar has just been set low enough that anything above average, I think
Right.
we're going to take and be like, wow, what a bargain that was.
But think of it from a sense of also, like, let's say this year in games of less substance, he
Mhm.
plays like he did last year and plays really well. So then you enter a season where the games might mean more. If he still plays up to that level, but he doesn't,
Mhm.
fit with the Flyers, whether it's timeline, talent, that doesn't matter. Right there, maybe a 50, 60 point player on a $2 million contract, you got a pretty valuable trade chip there at the deadline.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think too, you have to look at Frost, or at least hopefully he's looking at it this way of not only can he personally do it, but can he be part of like this quote unquote new up and coming core
Right.
that we have going in place with Tippett, Cates. Oh my God, guys, it's been so long. I'm like forgetting the players' names. It's been a really long
Konechny.
Well, I think Konechny's he's like in the prime at this point,
Right.
but
right. That's a guy you
know,
would build around on a
York,
team like this.
like those guys, those guys in their younger 20s right now.
Well,
Farabee. So is he part of
Sure.
that, or is he just here for,
Well, that's the thing.
for a
I
good
mean,
time, not a long time.
I feel like the Flyers are giving him an opportunity. Like, we need to see if you're going to be one of our top 6 centers moving
Mhm.
forward, right? Because you've got to assume that there's like a little bit of pessimism surrounding Sean Couturier and whether he is going to be a legitimate top 6 forward moving forward.
Mhm.
Moving forward. But it's like, are you someone that we can put on a line with Mitchkov? Are you someone that we can put on a line with hopefully our younger set of wingers? Or are you tops a third line winger? And in that case, later Gator.
Right. We're flush with those. I mean, realistically, forget about 2 years from now. Where do you see him fitting in this season, whether it's at the beginning or throughout. Like he's still not a top line center in any world.
I feel like you have to put him in the top 6.
Oh, in the top 6. I'm saying
No, I know, but like for me, I feel like I know that some people will go, well, you put Noah Cates on that as centering your second line. Like Morgan Frost is the one that has the potential to be a scorer, right? Has to be a legitimate playmaker. Like this is the time when you're trying to figure all that out. Like he has to be, in my mind, centering the second line to start the season. Right. Give him every opportunity.
So then your 1C, it's got to be Couturier, isn't it? If he's healthy?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if Couturier is not healthy, where's Frost going?
That sounds far-fetched, Derek.
Right? Like, I mean, completely hypothetical here. No proof, no stats to back it up. Do you roll with Cates again?
Or are you going Scott Lawton? Like, just for some stability? No, I don't like it either.
I don't like him on the first line. Let me clarify that.
No, I think you have to go. I think you have to go with Cates. Like, he handled it to an extent last year, and I think he grew exponentially. What I'd be interested in seeing, I don't know if we do it. Like, let's say Lawton, as we know, can be a third-line center if we need him to be. Like, I'd love to actually see Cates and Couturier on the same line.
Yes.
I think that would be a fun shutdown line. I don't know who the third person would be, but like, those two players just play the same style. And like, when you need to play that card against, the Edmontons of the world, can they do it?
Right.
That'd be interesting.
Would that be more of a second line to you though? Like, because in my mind, like, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but like your first line, your top line should be the production line. Should be the line that's going to score. Defense be damned. I'd be comfortable with Couturier and Cates on a second line if they're going to play that shutdown role, because right then and there, you've got two, dare I say, premier defensive forwards in the league.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, but one could argue that we just don't have a top line.
There it is. Yeah.
Like if you were to just say, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but like, who is your top line right now? I mean, Couturier, Konechny, Farabee.
Yeah, Farabee. Yeah.
Like
Tippett's up there.
I want to see Morgan Frost and Tippett together as much as possible, because I think like you're building towards the future, and I think that if you can have that chemistry, which it seemed like they had last year, you can continue to build on that. Then you really are establishing a core. Right. This is a team that's playing this is players that are playing together.
And two guys that have a lot to prove. I mean, you stick two guys like that together with the right mentality, you've got a pretty decent duo. And then you add a third guy, whoever it might be, that's skilled and competent enough, that can feed the puck, that can distribute it, or score goals. It doesn't matter. Like, you got a pretty decent line with, at least in terms of psyche.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I like the two of them. I mean, Atkinson comes to mind as, again, pending health, but like, if we see a bit of Atkinson of what we know he can be, the two of them with Atkinson, I think, would be a pretty interesting line.
He'd have to play on the left side, though, yeah. I mean, somebody's going to have to play on the left side. That's not we're flush with right wingers.
Are we?
Yeah. Yeah. And then
a lot of them.
I think we have like two left wingers. One of them's Nick Delorier.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't we run into that problem though with like guys like Hartnell, Simmons, like back in 2014, like 15, around that time frame too?
I mean, I think there's benefits of both though, because like if you have a shooting scorer, like you almost want to be on your off wing coming down, so you have a better angle. But like, it's tougher to protect the puck as you're coming down on the side of the ice. So
sure, there's pros and cons to it.
Speaking of scores,
right, that's a good segue, because we wanted to talk centers here too. A guy that converted to center earlier this season, Matvei Michkov. I don't want to say converted. He tinkered with the idea of being a center. Michkov, limited amount of ice time with SKA St. Petersburg. So a solution to that, potentially, SKA loaned him to Sochi.
where he was last season.
So there's a lot to unpack here, first and foremost, because again, lack of ice time. I have my take on that I believe, in terms of like reading up on it, there's a reason for it. However, we'll kind of take that as we go. But now with a different team, assuming he's going to get more playing time, I guess Casey, give me your thoughts just on the whole situation here.
I'm not going to pretend to understand the nuances of the KHL, especially for ska, which seems like basically they like skate in the Kremlin's basement.
Does anybody else just want to start going? Never had that. I better not come. Because ska, no. Like ska
I'm
music.
more of a real big fish kind of guy.
From a pure development standpoint, I think wherever he can go that he's actually getting ice time is certainly beneficial. It sounds like there's all sorts of drama going on, but again, I not to like downplay this storyline, but I also don't want to spend the next 2 years looking at what Mete Michkov is doing. I like every
How
little
do you not though.
Right.
He is the future.
Yeah.
He's the future.
My happiness won't
think,
hinge on how he's doing, but I want to know how he's doing.
I still have Fedotov syndrome. I'm still 50-50 on this guy ever ends up coming over here. So
call it
you were
Sochi
probably
syndrome
the biggest,
instead of
you were probably
Stockholm.
the biggest skeptic, I think, as far as the four of us.
yeah.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. I think you take the sure thing, but we didn't do it. And, I'm on board as long as the guy can make it over here. Now, on the flip side, I don't know if this is possible, but like, does this somehow fast track him, hopping at a barrel and getting on a ship and heading over here?
I've got my thoughts on this.
Style here.
I can't help but think there's some more shit at play here. John and I kind of talked about it, and I didn't go into detail because I wanted to get like knee-jerk reactions from you guys. Sochi's the spot where his dad was found dead as well. And loaning him to a team where that happened, and recently, within the last year, I believe, or within the last
it was
year and a half.
within the last year, I think.
Yeah. That's got to do something to a guy's psyche,
But you said he was there last year.
Right.
Right, he was.
While he was playing there and his dad was with him is when he was mysteriously dead.
Yeah, just found dead. Was it like a riverbank or something like that? I can't remember. But like just weird little things adding up. The fact that he wasn't getting the ice time. Now they're shipping him to the place where his dad passed away, knowing full well that's where it happened. Mm-hmm. Like, again, I'm not here. I don't want to be Mr. Conspiracy Theory, but at the same rate, like, I don't know, guys.
I mean, if there was any place that these conspiracies would ring true, Mother Russia would be it. So,
right. So, am I right to be skeptic of this?
Well, sure. I mean, but listen, I think because I'll add my 2 cents because you didn't ask me for my input. But
why would I?
Right. I think from a pure hockey standpoint, I echo Casey's sentiments. I just want him playing. I don't care if it's with Sochi, St. Petersburg, Siberia, LPT. Like, it doesn't matter to me where he's playing.
The Siberian Warheads? How cool would that be?
Oh, the jersey options too. Maybe some cool jerseys.
We got to get involved in
and every time they score, it's like a boom.
Bomb goes off instead of a cannon like in Columbus.
Oh, man. How much do you think it is to own a KHL team? Maybe we can get it on the ground up there.
1 million rupees.
I mean, and I feel like, you can just kind of take this anywhere and let your brain wander into conspiracy land. I refuse to do that because if I'm doing that for the next 2 years, I'll drive myself crazy. I don't care what team he's on as long as he's playing. I also don't think he's getting here early. I don't think that happens anymore. I think this is going to be completely by the book. Mm-hmm. Just because, like, remember, he has family in Russia. And unless they're going to have an oil barrel for everybody, like, he's not going to leave them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We know how this goes. Yeah. So I do think that we're going to have to wait as long as we're supposed to. And people just need to either dive all into this news and be okay with like moments where you feel uneasy, or stay away from it and maybe just look up stats every once in a while.
That's what I do. And I think the other thing is the overall lack of like media availability with the KHL. It's like, you don't even know. Like we have no idea what's happening over there. So
there's no post games like there is over here. You're not getting his take on, oh, hey, talk to me about your lack of ice time. Like, well, I don't like it. I hate playing here. You're not hearing that.
No, I love the opportunity.
Right.
I don't know what
Great
that was.
opportunity.
That was
Can't
kind
wait
of
to
like
get to the NHL.
mafioso, bring the cannolis. But one thing that I will mention, I have no idea what the coach in Sochi is like,
Mhm.
but there is a lot of negative reports about the coach at St. Petersburg, where it was like he's just a buddy of Putin who has no idea about hockey. Just like-
And he's the owner, GM, and coach.
right.
Talk about a narcissist. Jesus.
And he might even still play for guy. He might be like Reg Dunlap.
I think he did. I think that he took the ice on like a preseason game. I think that was like actually something that happened. So in Sochi, if he can remove himself away from that scenario,
Right,
I'm all for it.
Right.
Yeah.
I did read somewhere, and again, if someone listening here wants to clarify this for me or tell me I'm wrong, please do. But I believe there's a rule in the KHL where you can only play one player under a certain age. And obviously, Michkov meets that criteria, but so does Demidov.
Right.
And so they're playing Demidov. I could only assume in an attempt to showcase him for the upcoming draft because they probably want him to go high. It's better recognition for the KHL, which
and then go, you can never have this.
Right. But then, he takes the Michkov route, and then there's another young kid that comes up and takes the spotlight. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Again, I could be wrong on that, but like that would at the very least make sense to me, because they did that. I don't want to say they did that, but that was how like the spotlight was on Michkov all last year.
Right.
He was the premier European player coming out second best to Connor Bedard.
Right.
So you'd have to think that maybe that's the route they're taking. And I would understand that route, not enthralled about it by any means, but I'd at least get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the frustrating thing is the Flyers just so clearly have zero say in what his development is over the next 3 years, which is tough.
You have to put blind trust in an organization that really hasn't done anything to earn the trust.
How about a country? No, I mean, and I don't mean to offend anybody who's Russian, but it's like just look at the news and all that. Yeah, like
It's
Why? What's going on?
Matt Casey live from under his rock.
Does anybody else? I don't know, the animated Anastasia movie from like the early '90s. Where
Christ!
You heard? There's a rumor in St. Petersburg. Have you heard what they're saying on the street? Where it's like there's a little bat. Hey, Rasputin.
What the hell? Oh God!
Do you think
All
she's
right.
still alive?
No,
Anastasia? No. Okay.
probably not.
All right.
I don't know. Hell if I know.
So
JFK. In honor of the fact that my wife is less than a month away from giving birth to our daughter here, we have an interesting segment we're going to call In the Oven. And that segment was brought to you by Matt Casey. So great idea there. We're going to talk about some prospects here, quote unquote, in the oven that we think are due for a breakout year. And
they're going to pop out the womb.
Exactly. Pop, yeah. Just right onto the ice.
They're in the oven. They're cooking.
There's one very obvious answer here. I feel like all of us know. However, we want to kind of, I don't want to say steer clear. We'll talk about him.
Casey's like, that's who I picked.
So Matt Casey will go last. But I know John. I know his prospect-centric train of thought here. So I'm going to go with Casey first because he made the segment here.
Are we all right? We'll get it out of the way. Are we all thinking Forrester is the one?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to go Bobby.
We can all like agree on that one, but I'll
Yes,
go with
right.
somebody different here.
Okay.
I'll go with Zamula.
Old.
And the reason I'm doing it is I think the guy actually has the stature and he obviously has the seasoning now in the AHL where he's like, hopefully, okay, I'm done with this. I'm ready to move up a rank. And even with, some veterans in front of them, it's clear that they are veterans that are willing to ride the box if one of the young guys proves himself. So
ride the box.
Ride the box, baby.
Favorite pastime.
There's the name of the episode.
We do not talk about Kevin Hayes at all during this episode.
Hashtag ride the box. So, I know that there's still a lot of spotlight on Andre, and I don't want to take anybody's pick here, but like, I don't see it happening for him this year. I think Zamula, if there's a defenseman that I see busting out, I think it is Zamula, and I think there's more room on the blue line for budding prospects versus on the forward right now.
Now my question for you, Casey,
that's my take.
Is he busting out of the box or into the box?
It seems like a Carter Hart question.
All right, John, let's go to you here real quick.
Well, speaking of Carter Hart, I went goalie here. So I have more and more convinced myself that Carter Hart is not a part of the future of this organization. I'm not just talking about Hockey Canada. I don't think a contract is going to happen. I think that he's going to end up being traded. So I'm going Samuel Ersson. I think that this is the player that is going to get the opportunity once we've kind of moved on from Carter Hart. And I think he's going to take it. I mean, I like what we saw in the limited sample size, but I think he's going to do enough to get people feeling okay with the Flyers moving on from Carter Hart. Okay. I also think he's probably going to start the year in Lehigh Valley. Like, it's not going to be one of those things where it's going to be like right away, but when he gets here, I can almost even see like a moment where it's like, all right, we got to get this guy here. We got to get this guy here. And then when he finally gets the time, I do think he's going to hold his own and kind of have us feeling all right about goalie situation.
It's a good one. I wasn't even thinking about that, quite frankly, but that's a good one.
I did think about that, and I like it. I think, I mean, I did, but whatever. It's mental property. But I got to go Bobby Brink here, and I'll explain just because I know it kind of falls in line with Forster. Again, both forwards, both could be scorers. I just seem to think that people forget that he plays a great game, and he's fast. The skating might not be great. However, the one thing that this team has lacked for so long is top-end speed. I'm not saying by any means that he's going to just blow the roof off the place with his speed, but compared to some of the other guys on the team, you're going to see a faster paced game when he's on the ice because he's going to be able to keep up with the pace of play. Is he going to drive plays? Is he going to be that flashy forward that's going to make these crazy moves? I don't think so, but I think his finishing ability is going to be worth, at the very least, like a mid-season call-up. And what he does with that when he comes up, obviously it's up to him. But I want to see it happen. I think Bobby Brink could be I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be a stud, but like I think he'll be a very good player at the NHL level. We're looking maybe 40 to 50 point, 60 point max as a career.
He stays healthy.
If he stays healthy, that's the big question, as is with every goddamn player on this team. But that's my guy. I think he could have a good year. But again, I think a lot of it does hinge on Forster. If Forster's ready, comes up, that's one less spot that's available to Bobby Brink or any other person for that matter. So
there's not a lot of room.
Right. There's not.
There's
a lot of bottom six talent on this team.
Right. It's just bodies.
Right. And with the fourth line essentially being set, everybody's battling for three spots. Oh,
go ahead.
I you said that people forget about Bobby Brink's game or whatever you said. I didn't forget about it. I've never seen it. Like I've when he came up 2 years ago, I was like, okay.
Right.
And like last year he was obviously injured, and I guess I'll take that in consideration, but like, not to play favorites here, but we're all thinking Forster is the guy right now. When Forster came up last year, even though it was quote unquote garbage games, he was a game changer, and you could feel a 100% spark in the team.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe it's unfair to say that from 2 years ago because this team was such a wreck, even more so than it was a year ago.
Right.
But like, until I see something from Brink, I'm not on the Brink train one bit.
Right.
Sure. I'm not saying this to try to pump the guy's tires or blow smoke up everybody's what, but like, just personally, I think that he could be a decent player. Okay. Not saying he's going to be a stud, not saying he's going to be a Tyson Forrester, but I am saying that I think he could be a quality player for this team if given the right opportunity, if he can stay healthy. Lots of ifs as always, but that's just the nature of the game right now with some of these kids.
The interesting thing is like, I think we all tried to pick somebody that's could have like a major impact, really like, rock the stat sheet. Where it's like I wouldn't be surprised if it is more of like a steady Eddie guy, like an Elliot Denoyer, who like doesn't make the top 6, but he solidifies himself, on the third line or whatever. Where it's like, okay, you know what? No, he's not scoring 30 goals, but he's clearly a piece we can move forward with, kind of like a Cates,
Yeah.
Right.
But again, that's not like
it's not the sexy pick.
Yeah, right.
But did we overlook that type of player because we have a few of those?
So many of them. But I do think that there's an easier chance of guys like him coming up because you're essentially replacing people like Ryan Poehling that we don't really care if it sticks, where it's like I think that there's an easier path.
I think the benefit of that, even with guys like Denoyer who are coming up, and even if he's a solid third line guy, great. As long as he's a cheaper, just as serviceable version of who he's replacing. Because the benefit of having young guys coming through the system is you're getting them on the cheap.
Cap control.
Right. Which has seemed to eluded previous management over the last decade on how to make that work. But if you guys had to all right, so our 3 bet. So let's take the four. So we have Forster, Zamula, Urson, and Brink. If you guys are hedging the bets or giving, I guess, percentages on each of those, let's start with Forster. What do you give him from a percentage of being a regular Flyers player? Maybe not
who's making like an impact.
Impact, yeah.
Like by the end of is there a timeline to this?
What I don't want to get into is like opening night lineup. Like I don't care about opening night lineup. Right. It's like,
let's say maybe by the end of the season. But is that fair?
Well, in order for it to be an impact player, it's got to be like a prolonged period of time. It can't be like 5 goals in the last 7 days.
I would say by holiday time.
Right.
By holiday time. Okay.
So that I think that's a fair barometer.
Okay.
So Forrester, Derek, what do you think? What percentage?
I'm going to be bold. 100%.
Okay. John?
Oh, we're not divvying up the percentages.
No. I think we just go with
Okay.
Yeah. You can only go up to 400% though. Just to be fair.
I'll go with I'm more on the optimistic side, but I'll go 60%.
Okay. I was gonna go 80. On that one.
Okay.
I'll also hedge that, and I will say that I bet there is at least a 60% chance he starts with the team too.
I like that.
I also just wonder, who is he going to be with, right? What's the production going to be like there? I just think there's so many X factors with a young player who hasn't played a prolonged period of time in the NHL.
Yep. It's all fair. All right. So next we have Zamula. I'll start with this one since this is my horse here. I'll give it 50. I'll go 50%.
I'm going 20.
Oh shit!
You thought that was bad? I'm going 10. He's falling out of favor for me. I
just don't see it. I think that I think he's somebody that they'll give a shot to early in the year, but I don't think he's going to do enough in that time where they're going to be like, all right, you know what? If we're going to give a young guy a shot, we're moving past this. Let's see what let's see what Andre can do. Where it's his leash is shorter, and I just don't see him coming out of the gate hot.
Right. And I mean, we've seen it with another undrafted defenseman in Phil Myers. There's a reason these guys went undrafted. And you can say, yeah, well, Zamula, yada, yada, yada. I think he's a decent defenseman. I just don't think that he's going to be anything more than that. He's not going to be an NHL mainstay. And, hey, so be it.
We got to fill the AHL somehow, right?
Right.
So we had Urson.
Yeah.
Big X factor at play here, huh?
Right. Well, I mean, it's all contingent on what Carter Hart does.
Take into account, too, if he's going to enter the season as the 1B or the backup to Carter Hart, that automatically skyrockets the percentage here in regards to, because he's going to be on the team, you know what I mean? And he's going to get starts as the backup or the 1B.
Unless Cal Peterson.
Right.
Why don't you say Cal Picard? Cal Picard was a guy.
Yeah,
right?
no, yeah,
He's the
yeah.
guy
he
they picked
played.
up off waivers from like Winnipeg or something a
It was
few
like the
years back.
6th goalie
Or
season.
Arizona or whatever the hell it was. Yeah, 8,
Like Mike
8 goals.
McKenna. Talbot.
Stallars, Pickard, Talbot.
I'm just gonna call him
Neuwirth.
Cal Picard all year. I'm gonna call you
Picard. Yeah. Urson, I'm gonna go 90.
I'll go like 85.
I'm gonna go 85 as well because I think Torts really likes him and he wants him up there.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's a
absolutely.
big factor. I mean, there's clearly Torts guys, right? They just have it,
Right.
Right.
you know, and
Absolutely.
he's obviously going to favor those guys.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah. So Bobby Brink then.
About 5%.
You went lower than I went on Zamula.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just think he is going to spend a lot more time in the AHL for multiple reasons. I think he's still coming off that injury. He didn't quite ever get to what he was before the injury last year. I think that there's a lot at play with who's already on the NHL roster.
Right.
You know, I think someone's got to get injured or he's really got to light the AHL on fire, where it's like, I just don't think he's going to come up consistently and be up in the NHL enough to make a huge impact for a prolonged period of time. Like he could be one of those guys who's like the last 20 games he gets a call up and maybe scores like 9 goals in those 20 games.
Right.
Then we get all excited. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't think I think there's too much going against him.
I'm going. I'm not that harsh, but I'm going 25%. I just, again, until I see it, I'm not a Brink guy.
All right. I'm going to go 30 just to be higher than the rest of you guys. One guy I did want to discuss just real quick.
Yep.
Because I feel like this is a prime candidate too, given the situation on the blue line. Ronnie Attard. I know John's thoughts on this guy, or at least his original thoughts, because he pounded it into my head.
Well, here's the thing though. There's a difference between being on the NHL roster and making an impact on the NHL roster. I think by the end of the year, there is a close to 75% chance he is on the NHL roster.
Okay.
But I think it's a bottom pairing,
Non-impact role.
Non-impact role, throw him on the penalty kill. I don't see him as someone who's going to make an impact on the stat sheet.
Do you see that moving forward in general, or is that just this year? Like, are you not an Attard fan?
I'm not. I've never been. I've never been.
The man wrote an article breaking down his goals and how they weren't like his doing.
But it's like people talk about who he could be in the NHL, and it's the exact opposite of the player that got him drafted.
Yeah.
He's
an Attard contrarian, is what he is.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm with you. Like, I keep on hearing how great of a shot he has and all this stuff, and he might, but like, I feel the same way about him that I do Brink. I feel like it's been a lot of like Flyers smoke and mirror from the fan base, and until I actually see it, guys,
like,
do
you remember his first game? He was like a -6.
Was that more the team though? Like that?
Oh, no,
he
sure.
Give up 6.
But it's like people are like, but he made progress. So he went from like being a -6 his first game to a -4, and he ended the year just a -2.
I could have made progress on that. Jesus Christ!
I would love to be proven wrong here. I just don't. I don't see it.
Yeah, I just brought it up just to fuel the fire. But capping things off here in regards to our conversation tonight, the thing that did happen that I alluded to earlier in the episode, the one thing that happened most recently, Keith Jones has found his replacement in the booth, and it's going to be Boosh.
Yeah.
Are we excited about this?
I think so.
I think so too. I mean, for what he did with NBC or ESPN or TNT, wherever he was, I like listening to him.
Yeah.
I thought he did a great job, and it kind of makes sense to me.
Sure.
I like him. I think he's solid. I also think it's a bit of a testament to the Flyers broadcast teams in general, because you looked around the playoffs. I mean, obviously Jonesy, who's since moved into bigger and better things, is a mainstay. You saw our friend of the show, Jim Jackson, out on a couple national broadcasts out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bush has become a much more national name in there. So I think it's great. I think it's a great training ground for national notoriety.
Right. You've had a lot of guys go national.
A regionalized savage game of of fans. And I think fans will always remember the 2010 get into the playoff save. So Bush is ingrained.
And much to that point, too, I mean, you look at a lot of the past broadcasters. I mean, Bush has been in the booth before with Jim Jackson. Mm-hmm. And then you look at guys like Keith Jones, obviously, in the position that he's in. He was with NHL and NBC. You had Bill Clement, who obviously he's done national broadcasts, too. It really is a testament to the...
You put anybody with Jim Jackson.
Right.
I just feel like,
it's a Jim Jackson. He's Jim Jackson, man. Right. Like, I'm not saying that because he's a friend of the show. He's fantastic.
Probably completely forgot who we were at this point, but
oh yeah.
I'm getting the other name that I'm sure was thrown out there is Hartnell, who's done a couple games here and there, but that was tough listening. I'm not gonna lie. I think he actually does decent in the pre and post game stuff.
Yeah, they've just got to strengthen around him. The pre-post game intermission shows,
he's better in a Coatsy role to me. Like if you put him between the boards, like during the game, like I feel like he's better in that role. And like you had said, Casey, I like him in the pregame, postgame because there's a little bit of comedic relief there too, especially if the Flyers are going to lose like 7-2 or something like that.
Right.
But he's also not going to mince words, and he's a former player. He gets the game. He understands it. No, he didn't. Did he play for Tortorella in Columbus?
Yeah.
He did. Yeah. So he would understand Tortorella too. Like, I'd like to see him interview Tortorella during the games. I know Tortorella doesn't like that, but I think that'd be fun. Like, we sucked today, Hartsey. Like, thanks, coach. All right. Anything?
I'm just ready for it to come back.
Yeah, when does preseason start? I mean, we got to be coming up on it.
Well, the all-fearing rookie games are this weekend. So, luckily, Wade Allison cannot play.
I forgot about Wade Allison. Oh, that's bad.
That's a conversation we're going to need another show. Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, are we doing this? Are we doing this flag football thing?
Oh,
I didn't even. Yeah, that's right. All right, you've got the premise here. I have no idea. I'm not following. So,
all right,
you take this one.
In honor of the NFL kickoff that we just witnessed, and God, it's funny watching Giants fans around here. Oh,
what about my Jets fan wife with all her Aaron Rodgers stuff?
Dude, that was so good. I was watching that. I was like, oh no way.
Is it bad that I kind of feel bad for Daniel Jones? Like I honestly feel bad
for Daniel Jones.
For Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Like that guy just had no support.
All right. Anyway, go on.
Anyway,
just kidding.
We thought it'd be fun to if you were to choose one Flyer to be on your flag football team. Now, we're not saying it's just you and this one person, but like you and a group of like 5 other people, but you get to choose one Flyer from the current roster or AHL farm system to help your team. Who is it and why? John, go.
Rasmus Ristolainen.
You son of a bitch.
Oh, I'm going to go along the same lines.
Yes.
I'm taking Delorier.
God damn it.
And I'm taking Hathaway. Just to cover your base, too. I'm taking a big, ugly, just mean son of a bitch. Now, and he's playing line for me.
And what's your rationale on Risto?
Well, I mean, he's huge, he's mean, and he's goofy looking. Like, I just feel like I'd be afraid to go anywhere near the guy. And he probably just runs like a gazelle just down
those long ass strides.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm switching on the Flyer. I'm taking Konechny.
That was another one I was thinking.
I think he'd be really scrappy in like in what's that damn Eagles movie with Mark Wahlberg? Invincible, which like kind of makes me cry every time. But like like the like junkyard that they play football in, like that's where I'm picturing like these games happening. I'm connecting in there, like flipping his hat around and being like with his little scumbag mustache ready.
I got something to add to this. You ready? Who would be your last pick for flag football on the Flyers roster?
No, Carter Hart, without 100%.
I was going to go Cam York. Just like, all right,
Damn.
guys, we're gonna play
Boy,
some
you
flag
need that.
football.
You need like that calm mentality on the team too. You need the guys that are psychotic.
Carter, why'd you bring your damn guitar again?
That's
Yeah,
exactly. I was like, Carter's like, I just want to strum, man.
Like, listen, man, I'm gonna lull these guys to sleep. We'll be able to throw one over the top touchdown.
At least that's what we thought he was doing.
Cam's a pretty good one. You don't want that guy in there. I would say I feel like Cates is a little too stoic to get like aggressive on the gridiron.
Case
So
would be a quarterback. That's
Could you imagine
stoicism,
Morgan
like-
Frost? I just feel like they're not appreciating me enough out there. They don't really recognize my skill set.
I've only played 20% of the snaps, guys. What's going on?
Bill Meltzer seems to really like it.
Oh Christ!
All right, that was a fun exercise. Anyway,
All right.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Next
Well,
time,
that was
we're
fun.
going to softball.
I'm gonna do a lineup. All right. Give me your first baseman, shortstop, third. All right, folks. So short episode here, sort of. We're at about 45, 46 minutes, but
respectable. That's respectable off-season timing.
It is, considering the fact that, again, we're still in the part of the offseason where really nothing's happening, but there was enough happening that we decided, hey, it's been way too long
time.
anyway.
It's
Right.
time to get back into it.
And it's also time to wrap up the episode. So, John,
Yep.
never mind.
Okay.
Anyways, you can find us everywhere. I'm Derek. I'm on Twitter at Pod Street Bob. X. Still can't get used to that. John's not on Twitter anymore because he's a loser. Matt Casey.
Not on
I'm
Twitter.
technically on Twitter, but I deleted it from my phone. But one way or the other, I won't answer you at Pod Street Casey.
Oh boy. All right. Well,
I just have it on my desktop, and it's kind of working for me. My phone.
there you go.
Down.
Nice way to wean yourself off of it, you know, weaning off the X.
You just every once in a while check on the bot activity, see like if Haley followed you or whatever.
A lot of hot girl follows who only have 3 followers.
Like, man, your personality must suck. But all right, John, do you want to give your spiel or not?
No.
No? Okay, cool. That's it for us then. Fantastic week of talk, and we'll maybe be back next week.
Affiliates. We have them.
God,
Okay,
see-
anyway.
You're right. Our affiliates over at Flyers High and Wide, they're on Twitter at FlyersHW, as well as our pals over at the 5 Minute Major Podcast. They're on Twitter at 5 Min Major Pod. And that is it for our affiliates, unless these guys are going to tell me something I forgot. So if till next time, we'll see you later.
Bye now.